But I woke up this morning to Andrew Schulz absolutely dunking on Ryan Clark on his own podcast, for that matter. And it was magnificently done. I mean, just from start to finish. I ended up listening to the entire podcast. I started with like a short clip, and I was like, okay, I want to get the whole context here, and I want to see kind of exactly what was said. And I mean, he didn't disappoint whatsoever. From beginning to end, he pretty much, I thought, masterfully defended himself with the from Ryan Clark. I don't really necessarily want to dive into the whole backstory. If you don't already know the whole backstory, I'll give you the short version of it. Basically, Andrew Schulz made a joke about black women. Ryan Clark didn't like the joke. After a lot of other people were outraged about it, Ryan Clark went on his show and took offense to whatever it was, and kind of took shots of, not really took a shots at Andrew, but more so just took shots at what he said, took a stand against what he said. And I think that's fine. I do think based on some of the other things I've seen from Ryan Clark, he tends to try and hop on these like viral moments and implant himself in these to kind of bring attention to his show. And his show's already big, but I still think it's a little bit disingenuous. Like, he said that people hit him up and said, "Hey, what do you think about this? You should take a stand on it." And it's like, I don't really know. Like, I can't really picture that being the case, but maybe it's true. Like, people really hit him up and was like, "Yo, you gotta go check Andrew Schulz." I feel like that's probably not what happened, but maybe it did. Who knows? And Andrew Schulz, being the fucking comedian that he is, basically came back at Ryan Clark and didn't really went kind of soft on him, honestly, in the beginning, and just kind of was like, "Yo, like, your outfit's hilarious," and blah blah blah, which is so funny because the outfit that Andrew wears on Ryan Clark's show is kind of ridiculous, and you see like he's kind of taking a stab at Ryan Clark, which Ryan Clark almost kind of misses. But anyways, I'm gonna play you guys the clip, and you kind of give me what I'll give you what I think as it goes. I think what Andrew Schulz did here was masterful, honestly, and it's kind of hilarious. All right, I'm gonna take off. Mm.
Trend, the thing that's out there in the world, gets the response. Trend, the thing that's out there in the world, gets the response from him. But he's also just the best to ever do it
He's talking about
at talking into a
right
microphone.
now.
So, like, that's like, I think, the most sophisticated way of like going about it. I gotta probably get better at that. But like, my initial reaction is going,
This Andrew Schulz talking about his initial reaction to when Ryan Clark put out a piece on it, basically talking about his joke and everything. And essentially, the interesting part about it was Ryan Clark actually didn't even do it during a live podcast. He did it a whole separate video in his studio, just addressing Andrew Schulz, which I don't know if he's done that before, but that's interesting to me.
like, I'll tell you what my you want to know what my initial reaction is, which I think is kind of unfair, but my initial reaction was when I saw you guys talking about it, and I was like, okay, he wants to protect black women, and this is very important. And then I looked on every one of the episodes that you had to see if there was any guys on here that beat up black women. Mm-hmm. And there were. And I looked to see if you guys addressed it on the pod. And you didn't.
Okay.
Now, I also saw you guys had the episode with DeAndre's mom.
Dismantled you in 30 seconds. absolutely watched this man fall apart in front of our very eyes. Your entire argument, and then his comeback, his rebuttal. You'll see Ryan Clark's rebuttal to what or why that hasn't ever been seen before is even more hilarious.
Talking about domestic violence. So I was like, okay, this is good and this is powerful, this is important. But my knee-jerk reaction was, man, I get a whole section that's not even part of an episode. Mm-hmm. And these guys who we know have actually, like, for like a joke, and these guys who have actually like hurt black women and convicted, not allegations, because I don't go off of allegations, I go off of conviction. Everybody can get an allegation, it means nothing. And then these guys, they don't get anything. So in that moment, I was like, this feels like a clout play. It doesn't feel like the highest priority is protecting these women. So that was my initial reaction.
So I'm gonna say this.
Yeah.
We have had people on this show that have been convicted for domestic violence that have pulled it out of the show.
That pulled it out of the
show. No, Andrew with the Saratoga is just too fucking hilarious. I know what you were doing there, bro. No, why did you pull out that water out of all the water? I think his response was kind of a joke. Like, I think it's kind of a joke for you to respond with, oh, we have questioned him, but we removed it from the show because what, their image was too big. You didn't want to address them. You didn't want to make them look bad. But it's fine. It's fine as long as it's Schulz, though. It's fine if it's let's just say it. Let's call it for what it is. A white comedian. You can go after him. That's a little more acceptable in your group. That's okay. I don't get it.
I have asked about it.
Oh, and then like
the water cracks me
I don't
up.
want him.
So
yeah, and I do because people come on our show.
Andrew Schulz is such a meme, bro. He's so like up on the things that are happening that it's like it goes past a lot of people's heads. I swear, like he's really with it.
Of course, I do ask those questions in respect.
I'm glazing a little hard right now. I'm not gonna lie, I'm glazing kind of too hard, but I fuck with. But I have my issues with shows. I stopped watching his show a long time ago. I don't even watch his show, but I still think he's smart, and I don't fuck with his content like I used to. But I still think dude is a little smarter than people give him credit for.
Right. I'm not. Hey man, you're a woman beater, but I will say, like in one of the instances that was pulled, I said, look, you were convicted of something that no man wants attached to his name.
Amen.
And they answered it. We talked to their people. I was like, man, the answer was good. Like. And they pulled it out of the show. So we've had that happen.
It's your show. I don't understand that. Like, why?
We also had an instance with one of our guests who was talking about sexual assault, and he talked about it in a way that almost said that, okay, how do we blame the women? And I addressed that as well. Yeah. So as far as for me, I try to address it in every opportunity that I get a chance to with them. Yeah. I try to ask them questions in ways that they get to tell their side of the story. Yeah. When they sit with us, I do not bash them over the head with it, condemn them, or judge them in the moment. Yeah. I do try to have a conversation about it.
We're all like hypocrites. Like nobody's perfect.
No. Again. And I'm not, and I think Schulz is correct for this because he even addresses in the beginning of this episode. He says, I thought we were gonna be, have a little bit more of a warm up, but from the moment he got there, Ryan Clark goes in on him and just immediately, whoa, that hairline. Okay. But Ryan Clark immediately goes in on him and just starts right in on the whole, like, basically racism kind of, you're a racist kind of thing. And he didn't really say, he's saying it without saying it, obviously. But there was no pleasantries exchanged. And so I think after a few minutes, like, I think Schulz was like gloves off. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Just like, it is what it is. It's time to go. And so even here, it's like he's doubling down on what he already said. Like, you're a hypocrite because you're attacking me. And I think that's and I think this is a larger point that Andrew's gonna make way more beautifully than I can. Is like that is the biggest issue I have with people when they're like trying to like when they're trying to throw rocks. It's like, bro, you got stuff. You got stuff that you are not is this hypocritical. That's like you're trying to like put yourself on this moral like high ground, but in reality, like you got stuff. Like I got like stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like just this alone right here, in my opinion, puts me in a position where it's like that owning an iPhone and knowing where like how those are created and how the batteries are created, you know, lithium, the mines, all that stuff. Like I really have a hard time trying to judge other people about how what they should and shouldn't be doing, what they should and shouldn't be saying. Cause I know that like I live in a glass house. I'm not perfect. I know for a fact if you dug up everything I ever said, ever did, ever owned, ever, you know, any of that, you would be like, whoa, this guy, who is this guy? You know what I'm saying? So Andrew Schulz is going to put that way more beautifully than I did. And it's so funny because he kind of like doubles down and calls Ryan Clark a hypocrite right to his face. And I don't even know if Ryan Clark caught it. Maybe he did. He probably understood what was happening there, but I'm not sure if he really got it. Like,
do you know what I mean? Like I've had people on the like I've had a president on the podcast. Like nobody's killed more people than a president. You know what I mean? Like anybody who sat down, if you sat down with Obama, hundreds of thousands of people are dead because of decisions that he thought were in the best interests of America, right? Same thing if you sat down with Clinton, you sat down with anybody, right? Like I did a buddy of mine's podcast and he brought up the fact that I had Alex Jones on my podcast. He did one of the most heinous things in history where he said that those kids were faking it at that school shooting. Remember that? Like that's a heinous, Sandy Hook. I mean, disgusting, heinous. I had a buddy of mine, I went on his podcast and he was like, yeah, I can't believe you did that. That was like so fucked up, like what he did to those kids. And I was like, you visited the Pope.
Disgusting.
You know what I mean? Like they were protecting people f***ing kids.
Whoa.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like you had the opportunity to go meet them and you're like, I'll do that. And like they were literally protecting priests that were having sex with children. Like I can't think of any, like, so we can always find the moral equivalency or the moral high ground, which was a thing that I did with you guys, but I hesitated to like go out and talk about that publicly. This is why I did, is because the point of that is not to protect those women or to protect the children. The point of that is to make you feel bad or me feel good. And now we're using victims as a tool. I don't want to do that. So it might.
Man. Schulz, man, like there's no winners or losers in this episode necessarily. I do think Ryan Clark only did the episode because he knew it would be big. I don't think there was a whole lot of him trying to understand where Schulz was coming from in this one. And I think Schulz did it because of exactly what he just did right there. I thought he knew he was going to be able to kind of intellectually verbally jab these guys a little bit here and there. And especially Ryan Clark, I don't think he has an issue with like Fred Taylor. And I actually don't know who this guy is right here. It's on the screen. The light-skinned brother. I don't really know exactly what that's about or why that's the case. But I do, I mess with both, man. I mess with Ryan Clark to a certain degree. I always thought his sports takes were some of the better takes. I remember the Damar Hamlin night, the night Damar Hamlin goes down. I remember them. It was a lot of Ryan Clark that Monday Night Football. They cut the Sports Center. It was Ryan Clark talking a lot that night, and I thought that was, I thought he did a great job of covering that situation and covering like in depth like player analysis. But he's definitely venturing into like more of a radio host, a podcast host who is touching on a lot of different subjects, and that's fine. But it's sometimes it's hard for me to listen to him and be like, yeah, like, sure, this is like the guy who I think should be preaching to us about like race and culture and different aspects of life, because I don't know. I don't really think of him as like a super deep intellectual thinker. Maybe he is more than I know. But with that being said, I kind of think Andrew Schulz hit on his own pretty well here. He shut down a lot of this, and I thought it was hilarious, and I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I think people should think twice before attacking this dude.